Hi there, I'm Craig Slater from Sky Sports, and this is my Reddit AMA. Here goes. What is the hardest thing to convey trackside from a Formula One event? The noise, actually, I think, in the initial years, when we had the V8 engines, it would tear your ears out to be close to them. I can't explain. It was physically painful to be in the pit lane and for the cars to come past. It would make you tremble. If you didn't have your headset in or earplugs in, you almost felt like you had ear damage. It was really that visceral. And I think that and just the way it makes your heart beat faster, it's one of the few sports I think that when you're up close to it, it almost changes your whole metabolism. And the onus is on you to try and be calm and communicate if you're in this business. But sometimes it's hard to do that just because it is just so pulsatingly dramatic, noisy. The smells, the stress of it all is quite hard to convey. But I think, yeah, the sheer vibe of Formula One is unlike any other sport. In your career, if you had to choose the best move by a competitor, maybe some strategy by a team or an overtake, what was the most impressive or perhaps influential in the longer run? What would it be and why? One of the things I like about F1 is at a stroke, you can change the way a race is going. You can also be ruthless. There's no room for sentiment particularly. I always remember, and I can't remember which race it was, Ruth Buscombe, she was a Ferrari strategist. She was actually relatively low in the pecking order at Ferrari at this point in her career. She'd not long left university, but I think it was her who came up with the idea of opening the gearbox in Felipe Massa's car in order to promote Fernando Alonso onto the clean side of the track and move him a couple of places up on the grid. It was really lateral thinking, and it was almost doing your own team a bit of harm, but the result was really a genuine game. And I think that encapsulates the ruthless way teams approach Formula One. It put Alonso on the clean side of the grid. He got a better launch, and aside from the couple of places he made on the grid, or the place he made on the grid, he got an extra 2 off the start line. And I thought that was a very good example of ruthless F1 strategy. Ruthless Ruth, I guess. Who is the most underrated driver you have ever watched? I really think Nico Hülkenberg is fantastic. Swashbuckling driver, exciting in a way that's appreciable to the naked eye, not just by seeing a timesheet. Some of his moves just really bold, flamboyant. I just think he's been really unlucky, perhaps born in the year he was, because he sort of he came into his career with a lot of mature champions ahead of him, so difficult to get one of the top seats. And then after he'd had a few years in the sport and plateaued a little bit, we get another generation of young, talented drivers taking more opportunities at the best seats and rather squeezing him out. He was also in a period where the bigger drivers, and he's 6'1", 6'2", and maybe 80 kilograms, were a little bit unwanted by some teams because there weren't the allowances for driver weight in those days versus ballast that there are today. So yeah, I've always felt that he could have been a world champion and a multiple one. Who do you believe will have the best chance of winning the championship, and why do you think the others are less likely? Oscar Piastri, I think many of us have said from this pretty early on this year, looks to just be in a groove. He is supremely calm. He's in control of himself, although he showed a few nervous moments in Baku. Lando has had a great year. In parts, he maybe is quicker. He seems to be often enough, or more often than not, than Piastri is. Piastri just seems to win the big moments, or succeed in the big moments. Ultimately, it's probably going to get him over the line. Let's see how it goes. Max has been magnificent this year, probably driven better than he ever has in his career. He might just not have had the car in that middle portion of the year to sustain that bid. I think without question, McLaren have had the advantage this year. Piastri just seems to have that game head, probably under the the watchful eye of Mark Webber and the advice that he's given, I think, has maybe been the key factor this year, which will deliver him the title. But let's see, it's got to be won, and no one's won anything yet. If you had to show someone who's never watched the sport one race or moment in the 75-year history, what would you show them? I'm afraid it would have to be Abu Dhabi 2021, because I think, in a way, Formula One, some people say it's not a sport because the cars make it unfair for the competitors. It's never actually a level fight. But I think it holds a mirror up to life in a way maybe that more than any other sport does. As a climax to the season, as unsatisfactory as it was, and it's painful to watch back for me, in a way, as a human drama, you cannot but just be nonplussed by it. I remember saying at the end of that night, they brought me on to Sky F1 as the appeal Mercedes had submitted was ongoing, and I said it had been a black eye for Formula One that night, and it might put people off watching it in the future. I remember one of the newspapers said that was wrong. If Formula One was like that every week, it would be the only thing we ever watched. Hello, Craig. Thanks for doing this. I love seeing you on TV. You're in the minority. What's your favourite moment you have ever had as Sky Sports News F1 presenter? I'll never forget the first time I got pushed into the pool in Monaco by Christian Horner. It's one of those 30 seconds where we were about to go live, so I had all of the talk back in my ear, and I'm having an argument with the producer about they needed to come to us because Ricardo was about to dive in, and trying to position the cameraman to be ready, and there were, while trying to find a vantage point, 300 people swarming around this swimming pool, lots of camera crews, so much noise and stress, and then the push from behind, falling through the air, and then the silence in the water and sort of fizzle, and just a very surreal moment underwater, wondering what had happened and thinking the water's quite warm and I'll stay here, and then hitting the surface again and everyone laughing at me, Christian Horner punching the air, Daniel Ricciardo with his big grin smiling at me, and television crews from all around the world pointing at me, and being handed a towel by Ginger Spice to dry myself off. Who of the current drivers could you see being a future TV pundit or personality? I think they're all great. Formula One's really lucky. It's got 20 guys. They're all their own movie. They're all interesting. They don't copy each other. They've all got their own style. I think Lewis Hamilton is to be credited for that. He started a trend, and it's been a really healthy thing. I think it's enabled us to see the individuality in people. I do like Isaac Hadjar, I have to say. I think he's got a really dry sense of humour. It doesn't say much, but what he says counts. I think he'll mature into someone quite significant in F1. I think he'll have a significant career. Nico Rosberg, isn't he brilliant? Having been, I suppose, the enemy, from a British perspective, of Lewis Hamilton on the other side of the garage, but what a breath of fresh air he's been as a pundit. Jacques Villeneuve I've got to know a little bit since he's done a few more shows on Sky, and what a great person, really interesting guy, interesting life. Hello, Craig. About that legendary fake Miami Marina swimming, did you plan on doing that before going to the location, or was it something that came to you in that instance? Classic British humour. I got in a lot of trouble for that, I have to say. I hadn't intended to jump into the water. I knew it was a thing because people had planted images of themselves on images of the fake marina. But I jumped in and the camera panned off. And in that moment I thought, I wonder if I could do a bit of a backstroke on the fake plastic lagoon. And actually it worked quite nice. I got a bit of traction as I was sort of moving myself. But there were apparently crisis meetings called with the Miami Dolphins management about it. They weren't very happy. And Although they took it in good part when I subsequently saw them, and there were a lot of phone calls, and I felt really sorry for the people who were marketing the event, because they thought I was poking fun at it. It really is a world-class event. They do such a good job there. Meant to be a bit of innocent fun, and it was totally spur of the moment. Hi Craig, do you take advantage of your position to mooch free food and drink at the various team hospitality areas? You can't do it anymore. You used to be able to do that, not anymore. But I do get some food in the media room, so that's okay. The great old days when there weren't so many guests in the paddock, literally you would have your pick of lovely pasta at Ferrari, you know, great food at Mercedes or McLaren, Michelin starred cuisine at Williams in particular. So those were the days. Sadly, those days are gone.